The year is 1815. Europe stands at a crossroads. The shadow of revolution still hangs heavy. The old order, shaken to its core, has tried to reassert itself. Exiled to Elba, Napoleon Bonaparte, the embodiment of change, the conqueror who redrew the map of Europe, had other plans. His return to France was a gamble, a roll of the dice that defied all odds. He landed with 1,000 men, a force dwarfed by the armies arrayed against him. Yet such was the power of his legend, the memory of his victories, that men flocked to his banner. The Bourbons, restored to the throne but never to the hearts of the people, fled before him. The stage was set for a final confrontation. At Waterloo, near a small Belgian village, the fate of Europe, perhaps the world, would be decided.
The Battle of Waterloo, as it happened in our timeline, was a close-run thing. A slight change in weather, a different decision by any one of the commanders could have tipped the balance. In this alternate history, Napoleon's gamble pays off. He has a reserve force held back for the crucial moment. The Prussians, delayed by rain and fierce French resistance, arrive too late to save the day. Wellington's lines, battered and exhausted, crumble under a final, desperate French assault. The Iron Duke, his army shattered, orders a retreat. Waterloo, instead of becoming synonymous with Napoleon's downfall, becomes the crowning achievement of his career. The victory sends shockwaves across Europe. The Allied coalition, already fragile, collapses. The British, their army defeated, their treasury depleted after years of war, are forced to the negotiating table. The Prussians, their hopes of crushing Napoleon once and for all, dashed, retreat eastward. The other European powers, witnessing the Emperor's triumph, scrambled to make their peace with the victor. Napoleon, once again master of Europe, dictates the terms.
The Peace of Brussels, signed in the ornate halls of a conquered city, becomes the new order for Europe. Napoleon, ever the pragmatist, understands that lasting peace requires more than just military victory. He needs to create a stable order, one that recognizes his own power, but also addresses the concerns of other nations. France, its borders expanded, its coffers filled with war indemnities, is the undisputed hegemon of the continent. But Napoleon, wary of provoking another coalition against him, shows a measure of restraint. He allows the defeated powers to retain their sovereignty, albeit under his watchful eye. The Holy Roman Empire, a relic of the past, is formally dissolved. In its place, Napoleon creates the Confederation of the Rhine, a loose alliance of German states under French protection. The Netherlands and Belgium are merged into a single kingdom, ruled by a Bonaparte king. Spain, where French influence had been fiercely resisted for years, remains a point of contention. Napoleon installs his brother Joseph on the Spanish throne, but resistance continues, simmering beneath the surface.
Section 4, the Sun King's Shadow, Europe under Napoleonic Hegemony. Napoleon consolidates power. Understanding military might is just one aspect. Economic strength and control of trade are equally important. He implements the continental system to weaken rivals. Tariffs are imposed on British goods. French industries are subsidized and encouraged to innovate. The franc germinal becomes the standard for international trade. These policies stimulate French industry and trade, but also create resentment and resistance. Smuggling becomes rampant. Economies cut off from Britain suffer. Napoleon's policies sow seeds of future conflict.
Section 5. Across the Oceans, Global Echoes of Empire. Napoleon's ambitions are not limited to Europe. He has long dreamed of restoring the French colonial empire, lost in the 7 Years' War. With the Royal Navy effectively neutralized, he sees an opportunity to project French power across the globe.
He looks to Latin America, where Spanish colonies are in open revolt, and sees a chance to establish French influence. He sends agents and diplomats, offering support to the revolutionaries in exchange for trade concessions and alliances.
The United States, wary of renewed European involvement in the Americas, watches Napoleon's moves with suspicion. The Louisiana Purchase a few years earlier had doubled the size of the young nation, but also made it a neighbor to a resurgent French empire.
President Thomas Jefferson, though initially sympathetic to the ideals of the French Revolution, grows increasingly concerned about Napoleon's ambitions. The seeds of future conflict, sown in the Caribbean and on the high seas, begin to sprout.
Section 6. The language of power, cultural change and resistance. Napoleon's victories and his subsequent reorganization of Europe have a profound impact on the continent's cultural landscape. French language, fashion, and ideas spread rapidly, carried by armies, diplomats, and merchants.
The Napoleonic Code, with its emphasis on legal equality and meritocracy, becomes a model for law codes across Europe. French scientists and intellectuals, patronized by the emperor, make groundbreaking discoveries in fields ranging from mathematics to Egyptology.
However, this French cultural hegemony is not universally welcomed. In conquered territories, particularly in Germany, it is seen as a form of cultural imperialism. In conquered territories, particularly in Spain, it is seen as a form of cultural imperialism. Nationalist movements, fueled by resentment against French rule and a desire for self-determination, begin to emerge.
These movements, though initially suppressed, will eventually play a crucial role in challenging and ultimately dismantling the Napoleonic order. Section 7. What might have been, the legacy of a different 1815. In the end, Napoleon's empire, built on military genius and political cunning, proves unsustainable. The forces unleashed by the French Revolution, the ideals of liberty, equality, and national self-determination cannot be contained by bayonets and decrees. Revolts erupt across Europe, fueled by nationalist sentiments and economic hardship. Napoleon's empire, stretched thin, beset by enemies both internal and external, finally crumbles. The emperor himself, old and weary, is defeated and captured, this time for good. The legacy of Napoleon's reign, even in this alternate timeline, is complex and contradictory. He is remembered as a military genius, a brilliant administrator, and a reformer who left an indelible mark on the legal and political systems of Europe. Yet he is also remembered as a tyrant, a conqueror who sacrificed countless lives on the altar of his ambition. The world he left behind, though vastly different from the one he inherited, is still shaped by the forces of nationalism, revolution, and the enduring human desire for freedom.